The cameras flashed. Applause filled the big hall as Melissa James stepped onto the stage, her smile wide and perfect. She looked every bit like a queen who had just won a crown. "Congratulations, Miss James," the host said, handing her a large golden envelope. "Your company, MJ Designs, has officially won the $100 million urban renewal contract. You've made history." The crowd cheered. Reporters rushed to take photos. Melissa's heart raced with pride. All her hard work, all her late nights, had finally paid off. She turned to the crowd and waved, her diamond bracelet catching the light. In the back of the hall, her boyfriend, Ethan Cole, clapped quietly. He was proud of her. He had stood beside her when her company had nothing, when her office was a small room with one flickering bulb and an old computer. He had believed in her when no one else did. When she stepped off the stage, he ran to her, grinning. "You did it, Mel. You finally did it." But she barely looked at him. "Ethan, not now," she said sharply, her eyes still on the reporters. "Please don't embarrass me." He froze, confused. "Embarrass you? I'm just happy for you." Melissa forced a smile for the cameras, pretending not to hear him. The applause faded, but inside Ethan, something cracked quietly. That night, there was a celebration dinner at a five-star hotel in Lagos. The champagne flowed, laughter filled the air, and everyone congratulated Melissa. She wore a glittering gold gown, her makeup flawless. Ethan sat beside her, trying to join in, but he could feel the distance growing. Every time he spoke, she brushed him off. Every time he tried to touch her hand, she pulled away. When the dinner ended, she turned to him. "Ethan, we need to talk." He nodded, smiling softly. "Sure, Mel." "About what?" She sighed. "Look, I've been thinking. You're a great guy, but we're not on the same level anymore. You don't fit into my world." His smile faded. "What do you mean? We built this dream together." She laughed a little, cruelly. "Built it? Ethan, please. I built this. You were just there." He stared at her, disbelief filling his eyes. "After everything I did for you? After all the times I helped?" She interrupted, her voice cold. "I'm grateful, but let's be real. You're a mechanic. I can't keep pretending that's enough for me. I'm sorry, Ethan, but I need someone who matches my success." He looked at her long and hard, then nodded slowly. "So that's it? After everything, you're done with me?" She stood, picking up her purse. "Yes. I've moved up, Ethan. And you should too." He didn't speak again. He just watched as she walked away, her heels clicking on the marble floor like a drumbeat of finality. The next morning, Ethan packed his few things from her apartment. She didn't even come out of the bedroom. Her assistant handed him an envelope with his name written in neat letters. Inside was a single line. "Please move out before noon. The driver will drop you at your workshop." He stared at the note for a long time. Then quietly, he left. But what Melissa didn't know, what no one in that building knew, was that Ethan Cole was not just a mechanic. Behind the name Ethan Cole, hidden under layers of companies and silent partnerships, stood the true owner of the firm that had just awarded her the $100 million contract. The man she had kicked out of her life was the very man whose signature had made her rich. And while she laughed, thinking she had upgraded, fate was already smiling, ready to flip the script. 2 weeks after winning the $100 million contract, Melissa's life completely changed. Billboards showed her face smiling beside tall buildings. Magazines called her the new queen of business in Africa. Everyone wanted to meet her, take selfies with her, learn from her. She had become everything she once dreamed of, powerful, famous, and admired. But with every spotlight came arrogance. She fired 3 of her old staff because they didn't fit her image. She spoke to her driver like he was a child. And when people mentioned Ethan, she laughed, saying, "Oh, Ethan? He was just a phase. Some people are stepping stones to greatness." Her friends laughed with her, sipping champagne and gossiping. She felt untouchable, unstoppable. Meanwhile, Ethan had disappeared from her world completely. She assumed he was probably fixing cars somewhere in the heat, still dreaming small. She never knew that every time she spoke with the officials who signed her checks, she was speaking to his employees, people loyal to him. Because the truth was simple. Ethan Cole wasn't a poor mechanic. That had only been one side of his life, the humble one. His late father, Patrick Cole, had been the founder of Cole Industries, a multi-billion-dollar company that owned several smaller firms, including the one that had just awarded Melissa her $100 million deal, Crownworks Construction Ltd. But Ethan never told anyone about his family's fortune. He wanted to live a simple life, build something real from scratch, and love someone who saw him, not his money. Melissa had been that person, or so he thought. Now, from his quiet office overlooking the Lagos skyline, Ethan sat behind a desk worth more than Melissa's car. He watched her latest TV interview playing on the large screen in front of him. The interviewer smiled brightly. "So, Melissa, tell us what's next for MJ Designs after this huge $100 million win?" Melissa laughed softly, crossing her legs, her voice smooth. "Well, this is just the beginning. I plan to expand across Africa. We're working with the best partners, Crownworks Construction, for example. They trust me because I deliver results." Ethan's lips curved slightly. "Trust you?" he thought. "If only you knew whose trust you really had." The interviewer leaned closer. "And what about your personal life? There's talk that you recently ended a relationship." Melissa smiled coldly. "Yes, I did. I believe in surrounding myself with people who match my energy. You can't fly if someone is holding you down." The audience laughed, clapping. Ethan leaned back in his chair, his expression calm but unreadable. His assistant, a tall woman named Clara, walked in quietly. "Sir," she said softly, "should we proceed with the audit on MJ Designs?" Ethan looked at the report on his desk, numbers, timelines, and hidden red flags in Melissa's project. He tapped the paper gently. "Not yet," he said. "Let her build higher first." Clara frowned slightly. "Sir." Ethan's gaze stayed on the screen as Melissa continued to smile proudly at the cameras. "Let her build her tower," he said quietly. "When the foundation is fake, it always collapses on its own." That night, at a luxury restaurant, Melissa celebrated again. Crownworks had just sent her another payment, the first $25 million installment. She wore a red dress and diamond earrings, her laughter echoing across the room. At the next table, a man in a dark suit watched silently. He didn't speak. He didn't even look at her directly. But the waiter greeted him with quiet respect. "Good evening, Mr. Cole." Melissa didn't notice. She was too busy showing off her success, too blind to see that the man she had thrown away sat just a few feet away, the same man who had the power to destroy or elevate her with a single decision. Ethan sipped his drink slowly, his eyes cold but calm. He wasn't ready for revenge yet. Not tonight. He wanted her to enjoy her illusion a little longer. Because when truth finally arrived, it would hit harder than she could ever imagine. 3 months later, the cracks began to show. Melissa was still living large, new mansion, new car, new designer bags every week. Her name was everywhere, and her company, MJ Designs, was at the top of every newspaper headline. But behind all the lights and luxury, the truth was quietly catching up with her. At first it was small. A payment delay from one of her subcontractors. A few missing materials from a delivery site. Then, suddenly, her project accountant came into her office one morning looking pale. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "Crownworks just requested a full audit of all our spending so far." Melissa frowned. "Audit? Why? Everything is fine." The accountant swallowed hard. They said there were inconsistencies in the invoices. They want proof of all transactions. She waved him off. It's just routine. Don't worry. I'll handle it. But that night, as she scrolled through her emails, she saw it. A formal letter from Crownworks' legal department, requesting that she appear for a meeting in person. Her heart skipped. The letter was signed by a name she hadn't seen in months. Ethan Cole, Executive Chairman. She froze. Ethan Cole? She whispered, rereading the name again and again. Her fingers trembled. It can't be him. No. No, it can't. The next morning, she arrived at Crownworks headquarters, a towering glass building that seemed to touch the clouds. She was wearing her best white suit, trying to hide the storm brewing inside her. At the reception, the young woman smiled politely. Good morning, ma'am. You have an appointment with Mr. Cole? Melissa nodded slowly. Yes, Ethan Cole. The receptionist typed for a moment, then smiled again. He's expecting you. Take the elevator to the top floor. Each floor felt like a heartbeat. Each ding of the elevator made her chest tighter. When the doors finally opened, she stepped into a grand office lined with dark wood and glass. The city stretched far below like a sea of lights. And there he was. Ethan stood near the window, dressed in a black suit, calm and powerful. He turned slowly when he heard her footsteps. Their eyes met for the first time since she threw him out. Melissa's throat went dry. Ethan. He smiled faintly. Good morning, Miss James. Please have a seat. She hesitated. So, you work here? Ethan's smile didn't fade. Work here? No. I own here. Her lips parted. Her knees almost gave way. You what? He walked closer, his voice calm but sharp as a blade. I'm the owner of Crownworks Construction, the company that awarded your $100 million contract. I'm also the man you kicked out of your life the day after you won it. Silence filled the room. Melissa could hear her own heartbeat echoing. I didn't know, she stammered. Ethan. He raised his hand gently, cutting her off. You didn't care to know. Remember? You said I didn't fit your world. Her eyes welled up. Ethan, please, I didn't mean. He leaned on his desk, his gaze steady. You meant every word. But don't worry, I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for accountability. He slid a folder toward her. Your audit report. Her hands shook as she opened it. Every page detailed her company's misuse of funds, inflated invoices, unapproved purchases, and money transfers to personal accounts. Her name was everywhere. This can't be true, she whispered. Someone's setting me up. Ethan looked at her calmly. No one set you up. You set yourself up. You started living for the image instead of the work. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Please, Ethan, don't ruin me. He was silent for a moment, then said softly, I don't need to ruin you, Melissa. The truth is already doing that. She fell to her knees, crying. Please, give me another chance. I was stupid. I was blinded by fame. He looked down at her with quiet sadness. Do you remember what you told me the night you ended things? You said I was holding you down. Now tell me, Melissa. Does it feel like you're flying? She covered her face, sobbing. Ethan, I loved you, I just... No, he said quietly. You loved what I could become, not who I was. He walked past her toward the door. The board will decide what happens to your contract. I've stepped away from the decision. I want no personal bias. But whatever they decide, I hope you learn from it. As he reached the door, she cried out, Ethan, please. I'll lose everything. He stopped for a moment, then turned slightly. His voice was calm but final. Then maybe it's time you remember what everything really means. He walked out, leaving her kneeling on the marble floor, the same floor where so many others had once begged her for help. Now she was the one begging. And as she sobbed, security guards and assistants quietly watched from a distance. No one said a word. The news broke within a week. MJ Designs under investigation for mismanagement of $100 million project. It was everywhere: TV, radio, social media. The woman once called the Queen of Business had become the face of corruption. Melissa's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters camped outside her house. Her clients pulled out of deals. Banks froze her accounts. The life she had built from pride began to fall apart piece by piece. She couldn't even step outside without hearing whispers. She thought she made it. Now look at her. She kicked out the man who made her. Within days, her mansion was empty. Her designer dresses were gone. Her so-called friends disappeared faster than smoke. The only sound left was the echo of her own regrets. Meanwhile, in his quiet office, Ethan Cole watched the chaos unfold from a distance. He didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He simply watched, calm, distant, thoughtful. His assistant, Clara, entered. "Sir, the board has terminated MJ Design's contract and reclaimed the funds. Should we proceed legally against her?" Ethan shook his head slowly. "No. Let her be. She's already facing her punishment. Sometimes, losing everything is justice enough." Clara nodded and left him alone. He turned his chair toward the window, looking down at the city lights below. He remembered the first day he met Melissa, a bright young designer with big dreams and soft eyes. She had been humble, kind, hopeful. He had loved that version of her, before money, before pride. But success had changed her. And now, the same pride that lifted her had become her downfall. Days later, on a rainy afternoon, Ethan stepped out of his car and walked toward a small coffee shop he used to visit. As he pushed open the door, he froze. There, in the corner, sat Melissa. She was no longer glowing with fame. Her hair was tied up messily, her clothes simple. She looked smaller, fragile, like all the noise had finally left her life. When she saw him, she stood quickly, her eyes wide. "Ethan!" He didn't speak. He just nodded politely and sat across from her. For a long moment, there was silence. Only the sound of rain against the glass. Then she whispered, "I lost everything." He nodded once. "I know." Her voice shook. "I deserved it. I treated you like you were nothing. I was blinded by success. And the moment I thought I didn't need you, life showed me how wrong I was." Ethan looked at her gently. "It wasn't just me you disrespected, Melissa. You disrespected yourself. You let greed change who you were." Tears filled her eyes. "I know. I wish I could go back." He sighed softly. "We can't go back. But we can learn." She reached across the table, her voice trembling. "Can you ever forgive me?" He looked at her hand, then into her eyes. His voice was calm, almost kind. "Melissa, I forgave you the day you kicked me out. I just didn't tell you. Forgiveness isn't for you, it's for me." Her lips trembled. "Does that mean you'll help me?" He shook his head gently. "No, not this time. You need to help yourself. You built your life on pride. Now build it again on humility. You still have talent, don't waste it." She nodded slowly, tears falling freely now. "I understand." He stood, placed a few bills on the table for her coffee, and smiled faintly. "Take care of yourself, Melissa." As he turned to leave, she called out softly, "Ethan?" He paused, looking back. She whispered, "Thank you for not destroying me." He gave a small smile. "You destroyed yourself, Melissa. I just let life teach you the lesson." Then he walked out into the rain, calm, steady, unshaken. Melissa watched him go until he disappeared through the gray mist, her tears mixing with the sound of the storm. For the first time in years, she felt truly quiet. No cameras. No applause. Just truth. Weeks later, a small news headline appeared online. Former businesswoman Melissa James launches free mentorship program for young female entrepreneurs. The picture showed her smiling softly, dressed simply, speaking to students. The pride was gone. The sparkle of wisdom had returned. And somewhere across town, in a tall glass building, Ethan Cole smiled faintly as he read the headline. He whispered under his breath, "Maybe she finally learned." Then he turned back to his work, calm, focused, and free. Because real power, he knew, wasn't about revenge. It was about peace. And in that peace, justice had already been served. What are your thoughts on this story? Please leave your comments, share, subscribe, and like this story.